You see, I'm a simple college student living alone in an apartment. I'm very enthusiastic about the release of Pokemon Heart Gold, Soul Silver here in the States. I've purposely locked myself out of all media and the internet aside from school purposes, which means no 4chan, no V, no Bulbapedia, etc. As I was busy with the school year and being poor at the time, I wasn't able to buy Soul Silver on its launch day. After my school year ended, I ordered Soul Silver on Amazon. However, it would take a week for it to arrive. During that time, I decided that I would replay my crystal version on my Game Boy Color. However, I long realized ago, not long ago, my mom threw it away because I tore the save when it did, and I was very upset about it then. She also threw me my silver version, so all I have is my Game Boy Color. As such, I sat at the GameStop, bought a used silver version, as it's the only Pokemon game left they have for the Game Boy Color. $10, fairly cheap. I went home and started up for a nostalgia trip. This is where things started to get bizarre, and most likely the reason why you read this. The Game Freak logo started up as normal, but it just froze there. I thought the card had just errored or something, so I turned it off and on. The same thing happened. I tried pressing A and starting over and over, and all the buttons. Eventually, the logo vanished, and there was a black screen for about 5 seconds. Suddenly, rather than going to the usual menu screen, I was already in the game, in a previous save file, which was odd, as I was expecting all these cards to have been wiped by the poor battery. Either way, I wasn't complaining, as I would have chosen the continue option just to see what the previous guy did anyways. First off, I checked his information. His name was just Dut, Dut, Dut. He didn't have much originality. I checked the profile. He had 999 hours put into the game, with all 16 badges. 999,999.9 Poké Dollars, and all 251 Pokemon in the Pokedex. Seeing as he apparently had new and Celebi locked also, I'm guessing he either used a Game Genie, or was he really a hardcore Pokemon player back then. I checked his Pokemon just to see what a team he had. Just to see what an incredible team he has. To my surprise, I saw 5 unknowns and 6 Pokemon named Hurry. I'm thinking that this must have been some cool joke by the person who last played the game, but I decided to check the profile of these Pokemon anyways. As expected, the letters of the unknown, all level 5. I was a bit shaky with the unknown alphabet at the time, but I identified the word spelled out to be leave. As for 6 Pokemon, it turned out to be a Cyndaquil. Mind you, this was before individualized Pokemon icons. The Cyndaquil looked normal, but it was level 5, with only 1 HP left, with only 2 attacks Leer and Flash. I don't know why they named him Hurry, but at the time, I just disregarded it. The most eerie thing was that, despite the volume being at max, none of the Pokemon said the usual cries, just pure silence. Having enough of the team, I closed it. I was parked in what appears to be a room inside Bellsprout Tower. However, for some reason, there were no NPCs around. Even more eerie was that the pillar in the middle didn't move at all, as if it's just leaning on its side. There was no music at all. There was no exit or ladder, or at least I thought there wasn't. I walked around for a few minutes, but can't seem to find a way out. This was certainly not a room I've been in. I've seen in the Bellsprout Tower before. I checked my items for an escape rope, but the bag was completely empty. There weren't any wild Pokemon either. Finally, I managed to find a ladder. It turned out to be behind the pillar. The screen turned black and the music finally started playing. I heard a sudden chill as I recognized that melody I heard to be a theme when you hear when you listen to the radio at the Alpha Ruins where the unknown are at. I immediately realized this wasn't a loading transition, but rather I was in a dark room and would need flash. Before I took care of that, though, I immediately checked my Pokegear to change the radio to something more pleasant. Turns out there was no radio card, or even a phone, or time cards. There was only a map in which gold, from earlier, and I will call him Gold from now on, was just walking in the midst of black. I recall that Cyndaquil had flash, so I turned off my Pokegear and made Cyndaquil use flash. I didn't see any messages saying, hurry, use flash, or anything like that. The room just became lit, just like that, and I soon regretted it. The room was a chilling red, with a linear gray path heading south. The ladder I used to go up and down was not there at all. I had no choice but to head south. The screen got darker every 20 steps I made, until I finally made it to the end, which appeared to be a sign. I read the sign, turn back now. Suddenly, I was asked to answer yes or no, but there was no question being asked. I chose yes, as I do not know what it was asking. The screen went black again, making a ladder climb sound. The unknown radio music stopped, and in a few seconds was replaced with the not as creepy poke flute radio music. I was in another dark room, but I held my breath and used flash again. Suddenly it said that Arias fainted, which was odd, as since I recall that there was no serious conditions like poison on him, and I clearly wasn't in a battle. I checked my Pokemon quickly, and suddenly he's no longer in my party. In fact, after a bit of investigating, none of my Pokemon were there, but instead all were placed with level 10 unknown. I did the same thing and spelled out the unknown. My then team of unknown spelled out, he died. Either way, after that creepy change, the room was lit to reveal myself in a very small room that appears to be only 4 squares big. The walls of that room were gray bricks, as if I was inside something that was hollowed out. Outside that room appears to be a bunch of graves, similar to the ones in Pokemon Red and Blue. I walked around that small room and pressed A, but nothing happened. I've already concluded that this was clearly a hacked dinghy, and some sadistic person sold it to GameStop. However, my curiosity kept me going. I checked the trainer of again, only to find the sprite of gold was missing his arms. He also appears so smug, but rather seems more sad and empty in a way that I do not know how to describe. For some reason, it now said that he has 24 badges, which was clearly impossible. After a few minutes of aimless wandering, my character did a sudden spin and did the escape rope spinning animation. Instead of flying up, though, my character spun downwards, slowly, as if sinking. After that, the music stopped. After finally landing, the overworld sprite of gold was colored differently now. Instead of the usual red color he dons, he appears completely white now, including his skin, as he came straight from the colorless Game Boy games, voiced into a colored background of the Game Boy Color. I checked his profile, and now as white as his overworld sprite, he lost his legs and what appears to be tears from his eyes. It also said that he has 32 badges, which now started to disturb me, as his change of color number seems to represent something. I checked my Pokemon, which this time had 5 unknowns and a level 100 Celebi without a nickname. The unknown at this time, level 15, spelled out, dying. I checked the Celebi's profile. It was a shiny profile. Except there's only half of the sprite, one leg, one arm, one eye. It only has one attack, Perish Song. The area I was in itself was a sprout tower I was with the immobile pillar as before, except everything was red now. I walked north for what felt like forever. I finally encountered some generic men and women NPC. They were all lined up to the side, just facing the long slanted pillar in the middle. They were also all white as well, and nothing happens when I try to speak to them. I kept going north until eventually the pillar finally appears chopped off with the transparent red in that spot. I went up to red without even pressing A. I was suddenly engaged, and finally, in a bout, the music starts again, which it sounds like the unknown radio music again, but played backwards. Gold's battle sprite matches his front one, white skin and lack of arms, while Red sprite was the same as before in GSC, except transparent. The text simply said, "Wants to battle," as if he has no name, and both of us only have one Pokemon each, which was weird as I swore I had six with the unknowns. My shiny Celebi came out, conveniently with half a sprite for the back sprite. Also, the shiny noise and animation was different, as it sounds like it made like multiple screech attacks used consecutively. Red sent out a seemingly normal male Pikachu, except he's level 255. Its sprite seems sad and has tears in his eyes. Rather than the usual fight item Pokemon Run menu, I was given the only option to use attacks. Since Celebi only has one, I chose it. Naturally, since Pikachu was level 255, he went first. Pikachu used Curse, lowering his speed, increasing his other stats. I'm not even sure Pikachu could use Curse. Celebi used Perish Song. In 3 turns, both Pokemon get KO'd. Not like I have a choice. At this point, it didn't even go back to the fight menu. The battle just continued without me. Also note that there were no animations at all for some reason. Pikachu used Flail, which didn't do much damage, despite the health level and health and boost as his health was maxed. Celebi used Perish Song. Nothing happens as if it was already used. Pikachu used Frustration, which did a crap ton of damage, knocking Celebi down to less than 10 HP. Celebi used Pain Split, which surprised me as if Celebi didn't even have that attack in the first place. Now Celebi and Pikachu have about 150 HP. Pikachu used Mean Look. Not like that did anything. As expected, due to the effects of Paris Song, my Celebi fainted. Except in that text, it said, "Celebi has died," instead of the ordinary drop off the screen animation. The Celebi backsprite just vanished for some reason. The Pikachu was still up, even with the Paris Song, and it didn't count as my loss. Pikachu used one more different attack beyond the 5 attack limit. Pikachu used Destiny Bond. Afterwards, it said Pikachu has died with a slow fade out animation. Apparently, I was the winner, as a transparent red sprite showed up and said, "Dot dot 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 dot." At that point, I just freaked out, as a transparent red sprite was suddenly beheaded, leaving nothing but his transparent body. The battle then ended at that point and faded out along with the music. I'm back at the overworld with another change to the gold sprite. He's now in a transparent as Red's overworld sprite. I quickly checked Gold's profile, where this time the only thing remains of him is his head with a transparent skin. The head was zoomed in a bit, showing a black void in his eyes. It now stated that he had 40 badges now. I then backed out and checked my Pokemon. They were all level 20 shiny unknown, which spelled out red, no more. I was at what now, I assume, was next to the end. There was apparently no music playing, but for some reason I still felt like something was there that could be heard. I was back in my room in New Barktown. Maybe finally can get to play this game properly. But who am I kidding? I knew the sadistic person must have done something. I walked out of my room to interact with things, as I'm a bit afraid to go down the stairs to see what was awaiting down there. Note that I said walked, as that background was moving. Go was not moving his transparent limbs at all while doing so. just floated around like those ghosts you see in Diamond and Pearl. As expected, the radio, computer, and TV did not work, so I had no choice but to go down the stairs. I ended up in the same lower level room in my house. Everything appears normal, except Mom isn't home. After failing to interact with anything in the room, I decided to go outside. To my surprise, the door leading outside at the south didn't work, and instead, I just walked straight into it. A void. I continued moving south. I finally encountered something. It was Gold Sprite. I talked to it. He said, "Goodbye forever. Dot dot dot." Notably in the space in between the forever and dot dot dot, and vanished. As it happened, it said, question mark use nightmare. At this point, I would no longer deny that being possible. Gold did another escape rope animation, spinning slowly downwards like before. I'm now back in the small hollowed out room surrounded by graves earlier, or at least I say I'm back there, as there's no spread anymore. I try to walk around, but nothing happened, not even wall bumping noise. I checked the trainer profile, with absolutely no gold sprite left. It said I had 0 badges, and all the pictures of the Johto gym leaders at the bottom were replaced with skulls. I checked my Pokemon, which were all level 25 unknown. As expected, it spat out a word that I dared to read. I'm dead. As soon as I went back to the overworld, the room I was supposedly was in was covered with the same blocks as the walls. I then figured out what exactly that room was when the font text said RIP dot dot dot. The room was a big grave, surrounded by other graves. Gold had already been dead. He died presumably a few years after he defeated Red. He was a young trainer who, despite his efforts in collecting so many badges and attempting becoming a Pokemon master, was still unable to avoid the inevitable fate of death. His efforts were eventually forgotten by the next generation. I was unable to escape from that text no matter what I pressed. I tried resetting the game, but the same thing happened, at which I finally decided to give up on that horrible nightmare. After that experience, I never looked at this gimmick unknown the same way again. They said that only the first generation had folk tales and legends, but the second generation had shown me how unpleasant the truth can be. I eventually enjoyed Soul Silver immensely, but I can't unthink of what that rigged game had told me. In early September 2010, a complete working fan game of Lost Silver was made. The game is its own executable rather than a ROM hack, and therefore does not require an emulator nor a Pokemon Silver ROM. Therefore, there has been talk about expecting the story by adding a different series of events. If the player chose no at the sign, turn back now. While many people believe the events when choosing no, which is referred to as hidden by fans, is a made up addition by fans. It is, in fact, made up by the original writer in response to the creator of the fan game. The game alone, the standalone fan game, was made using an underlying Pokemon engine created by a game creation program called Game Maker. The source of the following game can be downloaded and edited here.